Andy wants to introduce our speakers. Now, Andy has been amazing. He was our speaker last year, Andy Swarbrick, if anybody came last year, along with Danny. And he really helped me coordinate this whole meeting this year. And he's also looked after Katie. And the baby crying is actually Ida's baby. we can't boot him out just yet. So Andy is now going to introduce Iida, whose surname I can't pronounce. Sorry. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Did anybody actually come last year? Yeah, a few people. Right, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be back here. Last year I came for 2 days. This year I made sure that because the Isle of Man is so beautiful and the sun is coming down amazingly, that I has been here for a whole week. And it's a gorgeous place, absolutely fabulous. I'm very jealous of everyone here. Anyway, I want to introduce our first speaker tonight. Iida, I met round about 2 years ago, and on this journey that I've been on of mending my body, when I saw Iida, I thought, I want to look that good. I'm certainly never going to quite match it in the same way. Being Swedish, very good reputation, and she embodies all that. But the way her skin glistened was an inspiration to me that not only could the journey that I started continue and I would look healthier, hopefully, but also my arthritis problems would go away. It achieved something today personally. We went up, how is it pronounced? Mackled head, and went up twice. 6 months ago, I would have struggled doing that. We went up and we came down, and it's a fairly steep climb, as many of you will know, and that was just another step on my journey towards healing. Anyway, I'm now going to hand over to Iida to give her presentation. Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Okay, any problems, just give me a shout.
Hi. Yeah. So my name is Iida van der Knoefel, and 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis. Bit closer. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So just over 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis, something that I have been able to reverse through a plant-based diet on the Paddison program. For me, it all started in August 2014. I was up running one day, and suddenly the back of my left knee started feeling really awkward. I had to slow down and make my way home, and I tried to kind of take it a bit easy for a few days, but it just kept, actually just started swelling up, feeling quite painful. And so I went to see the doctor, and they told me to rest for a month. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been to London, but that is not a city of rest. There are stairs everywhere in the underground. If you're working especially, you're always in a hurry. Somehow you're always late if you live in London, basically. My knee just kept getting worse and worse. I mean, I tried to rest for a month as well as I could, but the knee started swelling up. It was quite impressive at some stage. I couldn't bend it enough to walk down the stairs. I had to, for about a year, walk down with my left leg first. Makes you very popular in the underground at rush hour, I'll tell you that. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of my background, I mean, growing up, I loved horse riding. I was always at the stable. I was working, riding. I was cycling everywhere to kind of get places. My mom did say that I was allergic to dairy until about the age of 2, so I was given soy milk during that time. Then after that, I did start having dairy, you know, cheese and yogurt and all kinds of things, just like everybody else. My diet, I would say, looked pretty much like everyone else's I know. I would have either meat or fish or eggs or dairy with every single meal, pretty much. You know, you go and have some sushi or avocado chicken sandwich for lunch, or maybe a pasta salad with some mozzarella. Nothing kind of major there. We lived in London, so we would go out for dinner maybe once or twice a week, I guess. I'd never really restrict myself, so we'd probably have pizza or hamburger or go to one of those flame grilled chicken places. So there wouldn't be anything kind of unusual, I think, about my diet. I also loved cooking, so I cooked most of the things from scratch. I would use coconut oil or olive oil because I knew of all the health benefits that I had been told. So I kind of followed what I thought was a pretty healthy diet with the kind of occasional treats. So during this time, my knee then, it just kept getting worse and worse, and I saw a few more doctors. I saw an osteopath, I saw a homeopath, I saw a few acupuncturists, I saw a few physiotherapists, and everybody had all these wonderful suggestions for me, you know, little pills or great exercise regimes that I could follow, and I looked like a pincushion at a couple of occasions, needles all over that were going to work their magic. Nothing made any difference, and my knee just kept getting worse, and no one was able to tell me what the problem was. Now, I can kind of see the correlation between the pain level and the food that I was eating. Now that I look back, at the time it didn't make any sense to me, because it always seemed to be a little bit worse at these lovely special occasions. So I do remember this one time I went to a friend's baby's christening, and we had, you know, the usual kind of processed meat treats and things, and we had some cream-filled cake for dessert, and my husband and I were then walking home from there, about a 10-minute walk over in London, and the pain was just excruciating. I mean, there was like a clicking to the knee, it was so swollen, it was so uncomfortable, I didn't know whether I would be able to make it across the road before that little green man turned into a red man. It was just super random. And then we went to another friend's wedding a few months later, and it was a place down in South Africa, actually. So there were these, you know, gorgeous steaks on the table, and we had a lot of that, and dessert and cheese and all kinds of things, I'm sure. And after the dinner, everybody got up to get onto the dance floor. All the grannies and all the grandpas, except for me, because I was still stuck in my chair and pretty much could not get up because my knee was so painful. And I was trying to hide my tears at the time, because it's a lovely occasion. You don't want anyone to see that you're upset. But I just could not figure out how, at the age of 33, I could not get onto the dance floor together with everybody else. After about 6 months after this whole thing started, 6 months after that, I was actually referred to the rheumatology department by my physiotherapist. They ran their tests, and they told me that I had something called ANA positive oligoarthritis. And you guys thought my surname was a mouthful. I was pleased, actually, to finally get a diagnosis and hear, okay, you know, they know what it is. So I asked my rheumatologist, how long is it going to take for me before I'm well again? How long do I have to be on the medication? And she totally rained on my parade, and she said, this is a chronic disease. You will be on medication for the rest of your life. Which I couldn't quite understand this, because she didn't ask me anything about my lifestyle or anything like that. This was just what I was told was going to happen. Because my husband and I were about to get married just around this time, we were hoping to start a family soon. I was first of all given 2 options for drugs that were kind of deemed safe during pregnancy. And I was also told that during any pregnancies, I would need to be under the special care of a specific, I guess, rheumatology department, where they would be assessing, kind of monitoring me, the baby, and the drugs. However, because of our upcoming wedding, out of pure vanity, I was delaying starting the medication because I had been reading up all kinds of things about the side effects, and I decided I didn't want to have a puffy face, for example, in the wedding photos, so I just kind of powered on, and I only started the medication after the wedding. So our wedding dance, for example, was the slowest slow dance you could ever imagine. I had decided that I wouldn't let anyone see that this was actually really, really painful. It was like dragging a big log around. And, you know, for us, obviously, it was the most lovely dance ever. So in August 2015, so a year after it all started, I started taking something called sulfasalazine. And to me, this was the worst experience to date. I felt like I had some kind of metallic poison that was running through my veins. I had a really unnatural headache. Within 2 weeks of starting the medication, I actually had an allergic reaction to it. I ended up in the emergency room, and they immediately took me off it. And that's when I realized that I was now down to one option. I was down to one option in terms of drugs when it came to, being able to have a baby. And at that stage, something in me just kind of shifted. I decided that I had had enough. This was ridiculous. I knew that there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. I must be doing something to cause this situation in the first place. And if that was the case, that meant that I would be able to do something to actually reverse it. So I started doing research, and every time that I read about someone who had been able to get well from any different types of arthritis, there was actually a mention of diet change. So I started out by cutting out dairy and gluten and sugar all in one go. I also started doing yoga, and we're talking really, really simple yoga stretches, really. I was on YouTube one day researching kind of yoga for arthritis, and I just came across this one video where they showed a few things that you could do, and I remember that I followed that for a little while, and suddenly I was actually in the middle of a sequence. I realized I needed to get something from downstairs. I'd probably been doing this yoga for about 10 minutes, so I walked downstairs. I got to the bottom of the stairs and realized that I had been walking down the stairs like a normal person who bends both their knees. And I just thought, okay, well, if this is the result I get in such a short time, I'm keeping this up. And so I started doing it religiously every morning and every evening. And I know that there are a lot of people who actually do get it in their knees. So I'll just quickly explain to you guys what the best exercise that I ever found. I think I did this probably for a year, every morning, every evening, maybe just 20 times or so. But you will be lying on your back with your arms and legs kind of straight like that, and then you bring both knees up towards your chest. At the same time, you bring your chest up towards your knees, and then you just stretch your arms down so that you cup kind of under your feet, so you're like this. You're breathing in, and then for 5 seconds, hold that pose, and then you just relax back again. And so in the beginning, I was nowhere near getting my knees to my chest, okay? It was ridiculous. It probably looked very funny. But every single time that I did this exercise, I realized that I was getting a tiny, tiny bit further. And so after a few months, it was all working for me. I was actually able to do this possession. So just a couple of weeks after then implementing both the dietary changes and this yoga practice, I went to see my rheumatologist. And I remember that she just looked down at my papers when I entered the room, and then she looked up at me and she just said, your test results are back to normal. Whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. I'm not going to prescribe you any more medication. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is epic. And she also said, I would actually like to know what you are doing, because she apparently had a few patients who were quite interested in trying to reverse this naturally. So I just shared this with her, and she I guess she just wrote it down, and she has actually referred a couple of people to me to get in touch and ask what I have been doing. So I think that was quite good, and I'm really, really, really grateful to her for listening and for just acknowledging that I was able to do something that changed this the natural way. So, and also as I was walking out of the hospital, I did call my husband, and I was in tears because I was so happy that these were the news. Now, I will say though that I knew at the time that there was still some inflammation going on in my body that I hadn't been able to attribute to any specific food. And so I continued my research online, and that's when I found the Paddison program, where Clint Paddison has established why we get rheumatoid arthritis, or inflammatory arthritis. The type that I got is supposed to be very similar to rheumatoid arthritis, which is why I'm here today. So what Clint's research brought to light was that the severity of my own immune system attacking my joints was being aggravated by dietary fats, so animal fats as well as vegetable oils, and also undigested proteins in my diet. So I was able to resolve the remaining bit of inflammation by going through the elimination process on the Paddison program, and which was then followed by long periods of gut healing foods and certain types of exercise. And I think that one of the most helpful things on the Paddison program that I have found is, first of all, the support and the kind of positivity that you get if you're part of the Paddison Forum. I mean, you are talking to people, you're running your own journal if you want to do that, you're talking to people who are going through exactly the same thing as you are. Whenever something came up that I just couldn't figure out, I would write it down and someone else would go, oh yeah, no, that totally happened to me 5 months ago, I did this and this. I'd be like, okay, cool. And then I just kind of tried the same thing, and it worked. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. But then I would just try something new. And because I think I was also taught to kind of acknowledge the things that happen to you, you acknowledge them, and you kind of learn from that, but you don't really stop and kind of obsess about it and worry too much. You take it in your stride, you continue on. That's what worked for me. Yeah, I already gave this away with that little guy. But just over a year after I joined the Paddison program, my husband and I kind of assessed my progress, and we decided that it was where we wanted it to be in order to have a baby. And I would say that I had probably finished about 90% of the healing. That means that there were still some foods that I would react to. So lentils, for example. I love lentils, but they just are not my best buddy. Whenever I have them, I will find that I have a kind of a slight swelling in a finger, and that then disappears after a few hours. But this is the thing, now I'm able to see the correlation, I'm able to understand why my body is having a flare. I don't like to use the term flares, we just refer to them as reactions really, because that's basically what they are. And so I did fall pregnant, and I was blessed enough to have a drug and pain-free pregnancy under no special care of any rheumatology department. I did actually email my rheumatologist when I found out that I was expecting, and all she said was, congratulations, and do remember to keep an eye on your vitamin D levels. To get that kind of a response, a year and a half before, that would have been unimaginable. So yeah, that was great.